The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy. How does anybody live and drive in Boston every single day? This guy stopped in the middle of the road with his hazard lights on. This guy won't yield. That guy won't let you go. That guy passes in front of you. That guy goes 3 lanes of traffic all in one shot. How does anybody do this?
The passion.
Look, if the Red Sox aren't going to play Yoshida Endeavors as they're about to get swept, then we might as well just give up and go home.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
I'm glad that Mac Jones looks better. That's really important. He needs to look better. But if it were a video game, he'd still have an overall rating of 76, and that ain't cutting it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Short show today, only 30 minutes, 5:30 until 6 o'clock. Then it's Red Sox baseball. Sox taking on the Washington Nationals. Start of a big series. Okay, it's a Washington team that doesn't have a very good record, but they have a lot of young players that are starting to play better. I think the Nationals have won 7 of their last 10. It's not always who you play, it's when you play them. And right now, this Nationals team is hot. They're playing better, and they are starting to take that step that kind of bad but young teams do, where they can get hot, ride the confidence wave, and play well. So the Red Sox cannot overlook this Nationals team. It's a big series for the Sox as they come in 3 games back of the third and final wild card spot. They're now just 1 game back of kind of being that first team out, where my Mariners are right now. Mariners have lost 3 straight. So short show up until 6 o'clock. We'll give you the lineups for the Red Sox right before 6 at about 5:55 or so. Danny McKibbergan is here. The text line is open, 802-585-3026. That's 802-585-3026. Danny, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
Opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Rouse's Point, New York. Also Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I want to give the people, of which you all are included, I want to give the people some credit for how they've handled the Ezekiel Elliott thing. Right? Yesterday, Patriots signed Ezekiel Elliott to a 1-year deal worth up to $6 million. And by and large, much of the discourse that I have heard over the last 24 hours has been very reasonable, has been very measured, has been very realistic. Danny, I said it yesterday, right? You have to have realistic expectations for Ezekiel Elliott. And by and large, what I've read on social media, what I've heard out of Patriots media is just that. Realistic expectations. Okay, there are 2 things that are true here. As is usually the case, 2 things can be true at the same time. Number 1, the Patriots signing of Ezekiel Elliott is good. But number 2, the Patriots signing of Ezekiel Elliott is not game-changing because Ezekiel Elliott is not game-changing. And people seem to realize that. And I am happy for that. Because anytime you hear about a big name and a guy with a real resume, and Ezekiel Elliott's a 3-time Pro Bowler, anytime you hear about a guy like that, you want to rush into thinking you're getting that version of the player. Oftentimes you are not. In Ezekiel Elliott's case, you are not. It doesn't mean he's not useful. It doesn't mean he can't be important, but he's not the player that he was. And by and large, I think people have gotten what Ezekiel Elliott is, what he isn't, and what he'll bring to this team. So let's just start at the top. What Ezekiel Elliott is excellent depth. Okay, he's excellent depth. In an NFL world where there's 17 games at the running back position, you are 1 play away from injury completely altering your running back room. So you have Ramondre Stevenson. You would like to protect Ramondre Stevenson. You don't want Ramondre Stevenson to have to run the ball 32 times a game. You may want to run it 32 times a game, but you don't want Ramondre Stevenson to have to do that. Ezekiel Elliott takes some of the load off of Stevenson, Also, should Stevenson get hurt, whether it be for a series, whether it be for a half, whether it be for a game or a stretch of games, you at least have a back that's done the job before and knows what it takes. He's not going to be as explosive, but he's done the job before from a physical standpoint. He knows what it takes. So number one, Ezekiel Elliott is excellent running back room depth and a great complement to Ramondre Stevenson. Danny, Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston said essentially that last night on television.
Ezekiel Elliott is a nice compliment to what Ramondre Stevenson brings to the table. He can't do it all. Over 200 carries last year, at 88 targets in the passing game. He's probably the better passing game player between these two guys right now, but you needed another capable body to be able to throw out there, run between the tackles, run in short yardage, maybe even run in the red zone, goal line, low red zone, all things that I'm sure Ramondre Stevenson, Greg, fantasy owners hate to hear, but Bill Belichick knew he needed help at that position. They had nothing behind Ramondre Stevenson.
So depth and complement, number one, that's a huge reason Ezekiel Elliott is here. Number two goes into what Phil Perry just said. It dovetails what we said yesterday. What can Ezekiel Elliott do for this team? He can be a menace for defenses in short yardage. And that's what the Patriots need him for. If you're expecting Ezekiel Elliott to break off 50-yard runs this year or to have stat lines of 10 carries for 78 yards, it's likely never going to happen. If you are realistic in your expectations, like Phil Perry is right there, then you can be very, very happy with the Ezekiel Elliott signing. If by the end of the game he has 5 carries at 14 yards, but a bunch of those carries are inside the 3-yard line, inside the 2 for a touchdown, or are on 3rd or 4th and 1, then Ezekiel Elliott will have done his job. He can take a first hit. He can bounce off a defender. He can worm his way just past the line of scrimmage to get your 3rd and inches. That's what Ezekiel Elliott is at this point of his career. And most of the discourse, I think, today realizes that. I've seen this before in Patriots Nation, whether it's Sean Springs or Albert Haynesworth or Joey Galloway or Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace. When you bring in a guy with a big name and a real resume, people expect that guy to be great. Oftentimes it isn't. Ezekiel Elliott can be great at the role that he's asked to do. I think he will be great at that role. And as long as we are all accepting of it, then I think we can all be very, very happy with Ezekiel Elliott's presence in Foxborough. Short yardage, depth, pass blocking. That's the third layer to the Ezekiel Elliott conversation. Okay, pass blocking. Patriots don't have a good offensive line, right? We've seen that from the backups on Thursday against the Texans. We've heard that from whether it's Greg Bedard or Albert Breer or just us here in the studio. We know the Patriots don't have a great offensive line. They don't have a deep offensive line. I'm not saying Ezekiel Elliott can go be an all-pro left tackle, but on 3rd and 7, when you know the defense is going to pin their ears back and come after Mac Jones, then Ezekiel Elliott has a chance to just be one extra layer of interference there from you getting to Mac Jones. And that right there is a win as well. Ezekiel Elliott is an elite pass-blocking back. We know how much Bill Belichick values that. So I don't see any reason here why Ezekiel Elliott is not a good fit in New England. He can do the job that he's going to be asked to do. He can't do the job he was asked to do in Dallas for 8 years or whatever. But the job they're going to ask of him here, he can do. 802-585-3026. Joe in Richmond gets it on the text line and says, I feel like they could have signed Dalvin Cook. Instead, I feel like Ezekiel Elliott has a lot of questions. He could be a big flop for us. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. Let's examine the back part of Joe's text first, then I'll go to the front part. I think he could be a big flop for us. He's not going to be a flop if you live in the reality that I just set forth for you. It's that simple. If you live in the reality that I just set forth for you, he will not be a flop. If you live in the previous reality where Ezekiel Elliott used to exist, then you will be disappointed. I can promise you that. Think about it like a baseball pitcher. If I told you I was signing a guy who used to be a Cy Young winner 7-8 years ago, and I told you, like, hey, this guy's not what he used to be, but he can come in, he can eat some innings, he can go deep into a game, he can save you a bullpen, he can throw strikes and give you 5 or 6 innings, 3-4 runs. Okay, if I told you that and you accepted that, You'd be okay with it if that's what he gave you. But if you expected him to be the Cy Young guy, you'd think it was a disappointment. Don't expect Ezekiel Elliott to be the Cy Young guy. Don't expect him to be the home run hitter guy. Expect him to be the guy who can give you a representative quality at bat off your bench. If you accept that premise, then Ezekiel Elliott's going to be good. Ezekiel Elliott might end up with 8 to 10 touchdowns this year just playing on short yardage. Now, I don't want to see Ramondre Stevenson get hurt. I don't want to see anybody get hurt ever, but especially Ramondre Stevenson. If Ezekiel Elliott gets thrust into having 18 carries a game, then it's not going to work out. But if he's able to play in the role that he has, then he's going to do well. Ross says if you go in with no expectations, then you won't be disappointed. Yes, I don't know if that's kind of like a sarcastic dig at me and that I'm really lowering the bar here. I just recognize what the Patriots are and what Ezekiel Elliott is, I think, at this point. Ramondre Stevenson's the bell cow on this team. He's the guy who deserves to be the bell cow on this team. I want him to have the ball in his hands more often than Ezekiel Elliott. If the Patriots want to run the ball 25 times this year, I want Ramondre Stevenson to run it 17 of them and Ezekiel Elliott to run it 5 or 6, and then Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris to split the other 2 or 3 carries for the game. That's what I want. And it's that simple. Like, those are not me lowering the bar for expectations. That's just understanding the pecking order and the hierarchy on your football team. And Ramondre Stevenson is the guy. Ezekiel Elliott is not the guy. He is the short yardage guy. He is the pass catcher guy. He is the pass blocking guy. I don't need him to get 18 touches a game. I can suffice with him getting 8. 6 carries and 2 catches, I'd be fine with that. And I think he can produce at that. Let me address the first part of Joe's text on the text line, 802-585-3026. I feel like they could have signed Dalvin Cook. And that's a realistic question. Dalvin Cook signed yesterday with the New York Jets, shortly after Ezekiel Elliott signed with the Patriots. I would have rather had Dalvin Cook as well. And the difference for me would be I would have a difference in expectations. If Dalvin Cook was in Foxborough, I would have a Damian Harris type expectation of him, where we can look at 30 carries a game and it could be 18 and 12. It could be 32 carries a game and it could be 16 and 16. I would expect Dalvin Cook to be a huge part of the offense if he was here. I don't know that he would have accepted the money. And would I have rather had Dalvin Cook than Ezekiel Elliott? Yes. I do think there's room for Elliott. I do think there's a role for him and a role he can excel in, as I've just laid out. But Dalvin Cook is the better player. Yes, I would have rather had him. This all kind of points to a question or a statement that Adam Jones of WEEI in Boston had yesterday. He thinks the Patriots don't really love Ezekiel Elliott. They're just being cheap, Danny.
They got Cam Newton on a great deal a few years ago. Was that a good move? Like, they waited it out and they got a great deal. It would have behooved them to go get a guy who could still play. And maybe that's a weird one for me to criticize because, as Arcand knows, I love Cam Newton. I didn't think he was done. He was cooked. Zeke might be cooked. All I'm telling you is that if they really liked him, they would have signed him earlier. And that's what's frustrating. They don't like him. They like the contract, which means the contract was interchangeable. They were going to offer it to any one of a million veterans, and whoever took it, they were going to bring in.
That is possible, and that would be frustrating. That would be very frustrating. Again, I've laid out a role for Ezekiel Elliott that he's going to fit, and he is a good fit in that role. But I'm bothered by the fact that maybe Jones is right, and that the Patriots just said, you know what, we don't really care about the player, we just care about the money, and whoever wants the money can come and take it. Because if that's the case, then the Patriots have done this wrong. Because if they just said, hey, we got $6 million for a backup running back, come and get it, but they could have had Dalvin Cook for $7 million or $8 million, I would have rather had Dalvin Cook. Okay? Yes, I like a bargain too. I like a value play. And value plays can be really good and really beneficial. You know what else I like? I like really good football players. And while there is a role for Ezekiel Elliott, there could have been a bigger and better role for Dalvin Cook. Danny, can you look up if the numbers are out yet on the Dalvin Cook signing with the Jets? I would love to know how much. 8.6. So $2.6 million. I have to imagine that's not guaranteed. That's up to 8.6 for Dalvin Cook, I'd have to imagine, right?
I saw Zeke up to 6. I didn't see up to 4.
Yeah, Zeke is up to 6. Okay, Cook, I'd have to imagine Dalvin Cook is up to 8.6. Danny can correct me if he sees that differently. I didn't see a different number than that earlier today. But if you're telling me $2.6 million is all it took to get Dalvin Cook, I would have rather had Dalvin Cook. As good as Ezekiel Elliott can be, $2.6 million for a team who has money is not a lot. So if Jones is right, where they just said, hey, we're going to go at $6 million, and whoever wants it, come get it, then I would be frustrated. I'd be frustrated if I were a Patriots fan because the team is choosing savings in its budget over getting the best players. I'm in favor of getting the best players. Zeke can be good. Dalvin Cook would have been better. And I do worry about the New York Jets. I see a lot of people clowning on the New York Jets this offseason and saying, oh, they won't be as good and Aaron won't be as good and this, that, or the other. I'm worried about the Jets. Am I worried about the Jets winning the Super Bowl? Maybe not. Am I worried about the Jets being able to beat the Patriots twice and keep the Patriots from getting to the playoffs? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was listening to Colin Cowherd the other day, and he's talking about the line, and the line won't be as good, and Aaron's going to get hit. That all might be true. But I still think the Jets are good enough to beat the Patriots twice. And in the past several years, in the 8 years that I've been covering Patriots football in the state of Vermont, I've been conditioned to think the Patriots get 2 wins gifted to them every year against the Jets. And I don't think that's the case this year. I look at a Jets team with Aaron Rodgers, with a good defensive coach in Robert Saleh, with the offensive rookie of the year in Garrett Wilson, with the defensive rookie of the year in Sauce Gardner, with now Breece Hall coming back from injury, and now Dalvin Cook. And I do think, yes, that's a team that can impact the Patriots negatively. Are they going to win 15 games and win the Super Bowl? Probably not, but that's not my concern. My concern is, can the Patriots beat them? And right now, I don't know if they can. Getting Dalvin Cook, I think, is a good move for them, and good moves for the Jets are bothersome to me. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, at WDEVradio.com. We'll get you the Red Sox lineups here in about 10 minutes. We'll have the pregame show for you at 6:05 here on DEV. First pitch at 7:05. Danny, for as happy as I am, or for as positive as I can make the move for Ezekiel Elliott. And again, I'd rather have Dalvin Cook, but I think Zeke is good. And it was a necessary move, and I'm happy they did it. As happy as I am with it, I'm really bothered by something I heard today on ESPN Radio. And I didn't hear it just once. I heard it twice. I want you to play maybe the first 25 seconds of this Marcus Spears cut from ESPN Radio today.
I don't know if people know this about Zeke Elliott, but he was one of the better blocking backs. Sure. That was a big part of why Dallas held on to him, probably longer than him being a prolific runner, is because of how good he is in protection as well. So, the pairing makes all the sense in the world when it comes to how you would think Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick kind of want to change the structure of what this team is when it comes to their division alone, where everybody is going to be airing it out. They'll go buck the trend and go a different direction. But I like this for Mac Jones as well. And I think Mac Jones needs to be the focal point.
Okay, I don't get what he means at the end there when he says Mac Jones should be the focal point. That he kind of lost me there. But about 10 seconds before that, he said something that really, really bothered me. Okay? He said the Patriots are trying to buck the trend. Everyone else in their division is going to air it out. They're going to buck the trend, and they're going to run the football. And he's like, this is why it's good to have Ezekiel Elliott, because now they can do that. Let me say something here. If the Patriots' plan is to be a run-first team that plays ball control and zigs while everyone zags, if that's their plan, they have executed that plan horribly. And this is one of my biggest concerns and biggest frustrations about the Patriots. I want the Patriots to look like a modern NFL offense, right? That's what I want. I've been clamoring for a modern NFL offense where you can pass and be dynamic. Patriots, they have not done that, right? They have clearly not done that. They have not invested premium dollars or premium draft capital in the wide receiver position. Okay, other teams are drafting receivers in the first round, high up in the second round. They're drafting multiple receivers. Patriots are doing none of that. Okay, Tyquan Thornton last year, but they haven't drafted a first-round pick in 3 years at receiver. We're talking about 6th-round draft picks in DeMario Douglas. So I want them to look like a modern offense. They haven't invested in the wide receiver position. They haven't invested heavily in the offensive line to protect their quarterback. They haven't spent premium dollars on offense in general. The defense seems to get everything. The offense kind of gets nothing. So they're certainly not doing what I want them to do. Spears comes out, and Dan Orlovsky said the same thing, that the Patriots are going to buck the trend and go the other way. Let me ask you this question, Danny. Have the Patriots invested in that philosophy either? Because I don't see that either. They're not doing what I want, and they're not doing what these guys are saying. Do you think I'm wrong in this?
They're going to be like defense first, right? And win every game 10-3.
Defensively, they've invested a lot, right? They've re-signed Jonathan Jones. They've drafted Keon White. They've gotten Matthew Judon in free agency. They've brought in, they've Adrian Phillips in the last couple of years. They've done things defensively. Kyle Duggar was a high pick, so they've done things defensively. Defensively, they're going to be good. But if they're going to play this ball control offense and pair it with the defense, they haven't really invested in that. I think back in the last 5 years, the teams that were truly run-first teams and how they were built, and the Patriots aren't built like that. The Cleveland Browns, I think, a couple of years ago were a really good example. Cleveland Browns had Baker Mayfield, who was limited at quarterback, but the Cleveland Browns got to the playoffs in that COVID 2020 year. Why? They had Nick Chubb, who the Patriots don't have. As good as Ramondre Stevenson is, he's not Nick Chubb. And they had Kareem Hunt, who was a guy who led the league in rushing in Kansas City. They had two of the best running backs in the NFL side by side working in tandem. The Patriots do not have that. Okay? The Patriots don't have that. They don't have Chubb. They don't have Hunt. They don't have the collective running back room that Browns team had. And oh, by the way, that Browns team also had one of, if not the best offensive line in the game, anchored by Jack Conklin. They went out and spent real dollars in free agency on the offensive line. And I'll be honest with you, we're 2.5 weeks out from the season, 3 weeks from the season. I could still not even name all 5 Patriots offensive linemen. And it's not because I'm too lazy to look. It's because they're clearly not household names. There's not a bevy of first-round draft picks on that offensive line. There's not a bevy of day one free agency signings on that line. There's plug-and-play veterans we have questions about, like Riley Reif and Connor McDermott. Okay? There's no Teron Armstead last year who was signed, I want to say, by Cincinnati. They didn't go out and make those kind of moves. So the Cleveland Browns had 2 elite backs and an elite line. The Patriots have one very good back, one serviceable short yardage back, and a very hit-or-miss line that is the talk of camp for all of its holes. If your plan is to be a run-first ball control offense, you're not built like that either. And then I think of the Tennessee Titans. This is a team who's a power-running team, jam it down your throat. They have Derrick Henry, probably the best back of the last 10 years. Patriots don't have that. So you're not built like I want you to be built in terms of having a modern-day passing attack. You're not built how they tell me you're going to be built in terms of a power running attack. So what exactly are you? This is the question we've had for the Patriots for months. What exactly are you? You're going to be an offense that requires elite coaching and Bill O'Brien to scheme things up, and you're going to need a team and an offense that need a lot of breaks. Okay? What call is going your way? What pass rusher is on the is out the week you're supposed to play? What pass rusher is limited on a snap count and can't play 50 snaps on defense against you? What top DB is out? What weather condition plays into your favor? We've talked about the Patriots needing to have an identity. We've talked about the Patriots needing to have a calling card. And right now, I don't know what that calling card's going to be. They're telling me run first. I don't see the team being built that way. And I know it's not pass first because I've seen it not be built that way. They're going to be built on scheme, predicated on coaching, predicated on getting some breaks, and predicated on who's not playing and who's on the injury list when their week comes against the Patriots. And this is the problem. The defense has gotten everything. I heard Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal say this the other day, and he's right. The defense has gotten everything the last several years. The offense has gotten nothing, and as a result, it's left us in this state of wonderment, like, who are they? What are they going to be? And how are they going to move the football consistently? Because I don't know. When I think of the Philadelphia Eagles, I was like, well, they can kind of do everything, can't they? They're pretty darn good. When I think of the New York Giants, I think they're limited, but at least they've got Saquon Barkley, and I know they can put the ball in his hands. Patriots don't have a Saquon Barkley. When I think of my Seahawks, I'm like, hey, I think Geno's good. Not great. He's got elite help around him. Like, there are things I can point to for other teams. I can't point to those things for the New England Patriots. Travis says, Cowherd made a great point. He says, the Patriots wide receiver room costs $24 million. Tyreek Hill is $30 million and blows the top off a defense. You get what you pay for. The Patriots have gotten what they paid for. And what worries me about the Patriots, again, in that wide receiver room specifically, is injury in depth. There's a reason I wanted them to get DeAndre Hopkins. I wanted somebody who you could count on. Who would he be a game changer like Tyreek Hill? No. But would he have a bigger comparative impact than Ezekiel Elliott? Yes. And they passed on that in favor of a lot of 2s and 3s. And if where one of those 2s or 3s gets hurt, and Danny, we had to cut earlier in the news. We don't have to play it now because we don't have time, but Albert Breer talking about Juju Smith-Schuster's knee, saying that that's a real concern. Like, that Juju's knee is a real concern, and if that knee is going to, the Chiefs thought that knee was a real problem. They thought that knee was a real worry. So if he's not, if he gets hurt, now you're looking at Pop Douglas and an unproven Tyquan Thornton having to be really, really important parts of your wide receiver room, and that's not how the team was designed to be either. Okay, that's not how the team was designed to be either. So 802-585-3026, that is the text line here. Red Sox baseball comes up in just a couple of moments, just a couple of minutes, I should say, after the CBS News update. Danny, go ahead, fire me up the Red Sox music, please. Red Sox come into this game at 62 and 56. The Nationals come in at 53 and 66. But again, they won 7 of their last 10. They are a better team than their record indicates, certainly lately. Pitching matchup, Nick Pivetta, 8-6 for the Sox, on back in the starting rotation here with a 4.16 ERA. Josiah Gray was an all-star for the Nationals this year, although he struggled of late, 7-9 with a 3.69. Alex Verdugo leads off for the Red Sox. He's in right field. Justin Turner back in the lineup again today at the DH spot, hitting .288 with 19 homers and 73 ribbies. Rafi Devers is at third tonight, hitting .265, 26 homers and 79 ribbies as he closes in on 80. Trevor Story, he's back in the lineup at shortstop, hitting .368, coming off that 4-for-4 performance. He's already got three stolen bases, I should say, and he had 3 doubles the other day. Tristan Casas continues to be hot, hitting .251 with 19 homers. He's in the 5 spot playing first. Adam Duvall's the center fielder. He hits 6th. Jaron Duran down in the order again today, hitting .297. He struggled of late, but he does have 23 steals. He is in the 7th spot and playing left. Pablo Reyes, who's become really a reliable part of this offense right now, he's batting 8th. He's at 2nd, and Reese McGuire is the catcher, and he bats 9th. For the Nationals, this is a team full of young, exciting players. Former top prospect C.J. Abrams, who they acquired in the Juan Soto trade. He's got 29 steals. He leads off at shortstop. Lane Thomas, who's having a great year with 68 RBIs and 20 homers. He's in center field. He bats 2nd. Joey Meneses is the designated hitter. He bats 3rd. Cabot Ruiz, who they got from the Dodgers a few years ago, is the catcher. He bats 4th. Former Mets player Dominic Smith is at 1st. The 6th hitter is in right field. This one is maybe the best name in baseball, Stone Garrett. Stone Garrett there. Jake Alou, he bats 7th and plays second base. Ildemaro Vargas is the third baseman. He bats 8th. And Blake Rutherford, former Yankees first-round pick, who's been cast off from the Yankees organization a couple of years ago, 2016 first-round pick. He is batting 9th for the Nationals, and he is in left. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to Danny for pressing all the right buttons. As always, we appreciate him and his duty as he does it every single day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Tom Caron and Freddie Coleman will be with us tomorrow. I don't know which one of them is going to be live. Probably Freddie, because we want to congratulate him on his great personal success. Go download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, WDEVradio.com. Red Sox Baseball is next.